a $64 billion Ponzi scheme, a $1 million a month shopping spree, and a private jet escape to the UK. These are the billionaires who went from unimaginable wealth to total ruin. Alan Stanford, the second biggest Ponzi scheme. Born in 1950 in the modest town of Mexia, Texas, Stanford's beginnings were far from glamorous. Raised in a lower middle-class family, he started out as an insurance salesman and bookkeeper. Stanford's initial business ventures were failures, but in 1991, he founded Stanford Financial Group in Antigua. The Stanford Financial Group grew rapidly, becoming the largest employer on the island and boasting clients in over 140 countries. At its peak, the firm claimed to have $50 billion in assets under management, making Stanford one of the wealthiest men in America by 2008, with a net worth estimated at $2.2 billion. Stanford's business model was built on offering certificates of deposit, CDs, with returns that consistently outperformed the market, an offer too good to be true, as it later turned out. His ability to attract high-profile clients, including political leaders and sports figures, elevated his reputation. But behind the scenes, the entire operation was a massive Ponzi scheme. Stanford didn't just enjoy wealth, he flaunted it in ways that bordered on the absurd. Reports reveal that in just 3 years, he spent $100 million on aircraft, including private Learjets and helicopters. His extravagance didn't stop there. He once spent $12 million to add just 6 feet to the length of his yacht, an act that epitomized his penchant for indulgence. Stanford was known for his jet-setting lifestyle, rubbing elbows with the rich and powerful. His charisma and charm made him a star in the political and sporting worlds. By 2006, he was knighted by the Antiguan government, allowing him to adopt the title Sir Alan Stanford. This honor boosted his image as a financial titan and gave him an aura of legitimacy that helped him attract more investors. But of course, the facade couldn't last forever. In 2009, the SEC raided Stanford's offices, uncovering a massive Ponzi scheme that had defrauded investors of more than $8 billion. And not much later, his trial revealed the depth of his deception. Prosecutors painted a damning picture of a man who manipulated investors with fake records and false promises. His knighthood, once a symbol of his status, was stripped in 2010, leaving him with only his given name, Alan Stanford. In 2012, he was sentenced to 110 years in prison. Despite the evidence against him, Stanford has never shown remorse, maintaining that his financial group was legitimate. His victims, however, are unlikely to ever see their money returned, with many left to grapple with financial ruin. If you think Alan Stanford's Ponzi scheme was outrageous, wait until you hear about the man whose financial collapse brought an entire country's economy to its knees. Björgólfur Gudmundsson, Iceland's rise and fall. Once the second richest man in Iceland, Gudmundsson saw his billion-dollar fortune collapse in a series of events that reshaped Iceland's economy. Known as a brewer-turned-billionaire and former owner of the West Ham United soccer club, Gudmundsson's financial empire crumbled when he filed for bankruptcy in Reykjavik District Court. His debts totaled an astonishing 96 billion Icelandic kronur, approximately $759 million, marking the largest bankruptcy filing in Icelandic history. Gudmundsson, alongside his son Björgólfur Thor Björgólfsson, had been a symbol of Iceland's debt-fueled economic boom. The father and son duo were major shareholders in Landsbanki, Iceland's second-largest bank. But then the global credit crunch of 2008 hit Iceland's economy hard, leading to Landsbanki's collapse in October of that year. Gudmundsson's financial troubles worsened when his holding company Hansa went into liquidation, and his beloved soccer club West Ham was taken over by creditors. At the peak of his success, Forbes estimated Gudmundsson's net worth to be $1.4 billion. But by the end of 2008, his fortune had evaporated entirely, and Forbes revised his valuation to zero. While his son managed to retain billionaire status, Gudmundsson's fall from grace was complete. This wasn't the first time Gudmundsson faced trouble. In the 1980s, as a shipping executive, he became embroiled in the collapse of his company, Hafskip, and faced charges of fraud and embezzlement. Although he was found guilty on 5 minor counts, Gudmundsson avoided jail time, serving 12 months probation instead. Bjørgulf Gudmundsson's downfall rocked an entire nation, but you won't believe how this next billionaire's bold investments and risky decisions turned him from a national hero into a cautionary tale. Sean Quinn, Ireland's fallen tycoon. In 1973, Sean Quinn started his first quarrying operation with a single lorry delivering sand and gravel. What began as a small local operation quickly grew, outpacing competitors in the region. By the late 1980s, he made a bold decision to expand further and launched his own cement factory. This move marked his transformation from a local entrepreneur to an international business star. Sean Quinn's ventures didn't just generate wealth for himself, they created thousands of jobs at a time when unemployment was widespread, and the Troubles cast a shadow over Ireland. He took full advantage of the post-1993 construction boom, diversifying his empire into industries such as glass manufacturing, motor insurance, property, and even wind energy. By 1998, Sean Quinn's personal net worth was estimated at €4.72 billion, making him the richest person in Ireland. He was even listed as the 164th wealthiest individual in the world. His company, the Quinn Group, grew to encompass pubs, hotels, manufacturing plants, insurance firms, and real estate projects across Ireland, the UK, and Europe. Forbes magazine dubbed the Quinn Group one of Ireland's most successful companies, while Sean himself was nicknamed the Mighty Quinn for his seemingly magical ability to turn ventures into gold. At the height of his success, Sean Quinn was admired for his business acumen and drive. What started as a modest quarrying operation in Derrylin had expanded into a global empire, covering everything from cement production to high-end real estate. But as dazzling as Quinn's rise was, his downfall was even more spectacular. The trouble began with his decision to invest heavily in the Anglo-Irish Bank. Using a complex and risky financial instrument called Contracts for Difference, CFDs, Quinn quietly built up a 25% stake in the bank. CFDs essentially allowed him to bet on the bank's share price, and if the bet had paid off, he stood to make billions. Unfortunately, the bet did not pay off. When the 2008 global financial crisis hit, Ireland's banking system crumbled, and Anglo-Irish Bank went down with it. Sean Quinn's losses were catastrophic, totaling over $3 billion. His leveraged investments meant he lost more than 5 times his initial stake, wiping out his fortune and jeopardizing his business empire. By 2011, the bank seized control of Quinn's empire, marking the end of his reign as Ireland's richest man. Legal battles followed, including allegations that Quinn and his son had attempted to hide assets from the bank. Both were eventually jailed for contempt of court. In a revealing documentary, Quinn himself admitted he had made a terrible mistake by investing so heavily in Anglo-Irish Bank. "I was stupid," he confessed, reflecting on his decision to use funds from Quinn Direct Insurance to prop up his failing investment in CFDs. Think losing billions is bad? Up next, the story of a boxing legend who burned through $500 million and still couldn't stay out of trouble. Mike Tyson, the $500 million downfall. Mike Tyson is a name synonymous with boxing greatness and a life of extremes. In the late 1980s, Tyson was the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, feared by opponents and admired by fans for his incredible power and speed. At the peak of his career, he was not only one of the most famous athletes on the planet, but also among the highest paid, with a reported net worth of around $300 million. Some estimates even placed his fortune as high as $420 million. But Tyson's wealth didn't last, and his financial downfall was as dramatic as his rise to fame. Trouble began to follow him early on. In 1992, Tyson was convicted of rape, a charge he denied, claiming the act was consensual. He was sentenced to 6 years in prison, but served just 3 before being paroled. The conviction and prison time severely damaged his reputation and interrupted his career during his prime earning years. After his release, Tyson returned to boxing, but controversy continued to shadow him. His 1997 rematch with Evander Holyfield turned infamous when Tyson bit off part of Holyfield's ear during the fight. He was disqualified, and the Nevada Athletic Commission suspended his boxing license for 16 months. The incident was not only shocking, but also devastating to his career and income. During this time, Tyson's financial troubles deepened. While his boxing career had earned him staggering amounts of money, Tyson's spending habits were just as legendary. He lived extravagantly, purchasing multiple multi-million-dollar mansions across the US, including a sprawling estate in Las Vegas. His garage was filled with luxury cars, and he spent lavishly on jewelry, bodyguards, and even exotic pets. Among his most outrageous purchases were two $70,000 Bengal tigers, which required a custom-built habitat at his home and a dedicated caregiver, earning $125,000 annually. Tyson also bought a gold-plated bathtub for his then-wife, actress Robin Givens, at an insane cost of $2 million, and despite his massive earnings, he made $103 million alone for his 2002 fight with Lennox Lewis. Tyson's financial empire crumbled. By 2003, he was forced to declare bankruptcy. Court filings revealed he was $23 million in debt, including $13.4 million owed to the IRS, $4 million to British tax authorities, and millions more to lawyers, financial advisors, trainers, and even a music producer. Tyson also owed significant amounts to his ex-wife as part of their divorce settlement. Tyson later accused his longtime promoter, Don King, of taking up to 50% of his fight earnings, which he claimed was illegal. He eventually recovered $14 million in a lawsuit against King, but most of that money went straight to paying off debts. By this point, Tyson's fortune was gone, and he was left grappling with the harsh realities of financial ruin. Though he has since worked to rebuild his life through various ventures, including acting, a one-man stage show, and even cannabis farming, Mike Tyson's story is a stark reminder of how even the largest fortunes can disappear under the weight of controversy, bad decisions, and unchecked extravagance. Now, if you thought Tyson's fall was dramatic, buckle up for the story of a tech prodigy who went from gracing magazine covers to fighting fraud charges. Elizabeth Holmes, the tech star who crashed. Elizabeth Holmes, once celebrated as a revolutionary in the tech and healthcare industries, rose to fame as the founder of Theranos, a blood testing company that promised to change the world. Backed by high-profile investors such as media tycoon Rupert Murdoch, Oracle co-founder Larry Ellison, and the Walton family of Walmart fame, Theranos reached an astonishing valuation of $9 billion. Holmes was hailed as a visionary, even gracing the cover of Forbes as the youngest self-made female billionaire. But the company's groundbreaking claims, like conducting hundreds of medical tests with just a few drops of blood, were too good to be true. Investigations led by the Wall Street Journal exposed that Theranos' technology was not only ineffective, but dangerously unreliable. The reports revealed how the company had manipulated data to conceal its failures, putting patients' health at risk. Theranos denied the allegations, but the exposé set off a domino effect that culminated in the company's collapse. The fallout was catastrophic. Investors, including some of the biggest names in business, lost millions. Rupert Murdoch alone reportedly invested over $100 million. For patients, the consequences were even more dire. Misdiagnoses and inaccurate test results raised ethical questions about the harm caused by Theranos' false claims. Holmes, once a darling of Silicon Valley, became the face of corporate deception. In 2023, she was convicted of defrauding investors and sentenced to 11 years in prison. Despite the sentence, her financial woes didn't end there. Reports from Bloomberg indicate that Holmes has told a judge she cannot afford to pay $250 a month in restitution to those who lost money in the Theranos scandal. This statement highlights just how far she has fallen. Once a billionaire, now unable to make even modest repayments. Today, she stands as a stark example of how even the most promising innovations can crumble when built on a foundation of lies. Holmes' story is shocking, but this next tycoon didn't just ruin his empire. He left thousands of employees and creditors in financial ruin before fleeing the country. Vijay Mallya, the king of good times no more. Vijay Mallya, once celebrated as the king of good times, now stands as a cautionary tale of ambition gone awry. Known for his extravagant lifestyle, he epitomized the high life with luxury jets, cricket sponsorships, and opulent parties that became legendary. But behind the glamour lay a story of mounting debts, failed promises, and eventual disgrace. Mallya's journey began in the 1980s, when he inherited his father's liquor business, United Breweries Group, at the age of 28. Under his leadership, the company grew into a multi-billion-dollar empire, with brands like Kingfisher beer becoming household names. He wasn't just a businessman, he was a showman. Malia's larger-than-life persona extended to everything he touched, from Formula One teams to lavish events featuring global celebrities. In 2005, Malia ventured into aviation, launching Kingfisher Airlines with the promise of offering unparalleled luxury in Indian skies. With its plush Kingfisher red branding, state-of-the-art amenities, and celebrity endorsements, the airline became synonymous with luxury. For a brief period, it was the pride of India, reflecting the aspirations of a rising middle class. Behind the glitz, however, the financial foundations of Kingfisher Airlines were shaky. To fund the airline's rapid expansion, Malia borrowed extensively from Indian banks. Rising fuel prices, cutthroat competition from low-cost carriers, and poor financial planning soon began eroding Kingfisher's profitability. Despite assurances to stakeholders and creditors, repayments slowed and debt began piling up. By 2012, Kingfisher Airlines was grounded, burdened by a massive debt of over 9,000 crore, roughly 1.1 billion Rs. Employees went unpaid for months and customers were left stranded. The airline's failure didn't just sink a business, it upended lives. Thousands of employees, from pilots to ground staff, faced financial ruin, while families dependent on their salaries struggled to make ends meet. Amid the chaos, Malia's public image took a nosedive. While employees and creditors begged for payments, he continued living extravagantly. One incident in particular sparked outrage: a lavish birthday bash in 2016, featuring a performance by Enrique Iglesias. The sheer insensitivity of such a display, while Kingfisher employees were left unpaid, cemented his reputation as a man disconnected from reality. Malia's critics accused him of prioritizing his personal indulgences over his responsibilities. The king of good times seemed more focused on maintaining his extravagant persona than addressing the financial wreckage left in his wake. By 2017, Malia faced mounting legal troubles in India, including warrants for his arrest on charges of fraud and money laundering. Rather than stay and face the music, he fled to the UK, sparking widespread anger. His escape symbolized not just a failure of governance, but a betrayal of trust for the thousands of people who had believed in his vision. The Indian government has since worked tirelessly to extradite him, but Malia has resisted, claiming political persecution. His assets in India have been seized, and legal efforts to recover the unpaid loans continue. However, the road to justice has been long and fraught with complications. Malia's life in the UK has been anything but quiet. From fighting extradition to navigating legal battles over his assets, his days are a far cry from the grandeur he once enjoyed. Meanwhile, the Indian government continues its pursuit, determined to hold him accountable for the financial disaster he left behind. The question remains, will Malia ever return to India to face justice, or will he remain a fugitive? From opulence to exile, Malia's story is jaw-dropping, but this next billionaire's downfall shows how even a booming economy can't save bad business decisions. Eike Batista, Brazil's fallen oil baron. Eike Batista, once hailed as the face of Brazil's economic boom, experienced one of the most dramatic financial collapses in modern history. At his peak in 2012, Batista's net worth was $35 billion, making him the richest person in Brazil and the 8th richest in the world. Known for his lively personality and bold ambitions, he even told Carlos Slim, then the wealthiest person on the planet, that he would soon surpass him to claim the title of the richest human alive. Batista's empire was built on oil, mining, and energy. In 2008, his oil company, OGX, went public and raised $3.6 billion, drawing significant interest from investors eager to profit from Brazil's booming commodities market. Batista didn't just want to build personal wealth, he aspired to uplift Brazil. He publicly stated his goal of inspiring a generation of Brazilians to take pride in their nation. His investments spanned multiple industries: mines, oil fields, electricity plants, and even Rio de Janeiro's iconic Hotel Gloria. His philanthropic efforts also drew attention. Batista donated cars to Rio's police force and spearheaded environmental initiatives, including plans to clean up a polluted lake in preparation for the 2016 Summer Olympics. For a time, he seemed unstoppable, a symbol of Brazil's bright future. Unfortunately, the foundations of Batista's empire were not as solid as they appeared. OGX's oil fields, which were supposed to deliver massive production, fell drastically short of expectations. The promised reserves were largely non-existent and production levels plummeted. Investors, initially captivated by Batista's charisma and ambitious projections, lost faith. By 2013, OGX had filed for bankruptcy protection, and Batista's empire began to crumble. Adding to his troubles, Brazil's economy, once booming, entered a severe recession in 2014. The downturn exacerbated the struggles of Batista's businesses, which relied heavily on loans and investments. The man who had once embodied Brazil's economic success became a symbol of its fragility. As if financial woes weren't enough, Batista became embroiled in one of Brazil's largest corruption scandals, Operation Car Wash. This investigation exposed widespread corruption involving politicians and business leaders tied to the state-run oil company Petrobras. In January 2017, Batista was arrested at his luxurious home in Rio de Janeiro on allegations of paying $16.5 million in bribes to Sergio Cabral, a former state governor who was already serving a prison sentence for his role in the scandal. The fallout from Operation Car Wash was devastating for Batista. In 2018, he was sentenced to 30 years in prison for his involvement in the corruption scheme. And later, he was also fined $134 million for insider trading and banned from running a publicly traded company for 7 years. As of 2019, Batista was under house arrest, appealing his sentence while facing the ruins of his once great empire. So that's how these billionaires went from unimaginable wealth to losing it all. But what happens when the rich and powerful end up behind bars? Check out this video on how billionaires live in prison to uncover the shocking reality of luxury behind bars.